Hey guys, Lonnie, Real Alcoholic. Okay, let's kind of recap, man, if we've been thorough about our personal inventory. Page 70, bottom. If we've been thorough, we have written down a lot. All right, man, nowhere does it say we're writing an autobiography. Nowhere does it says we're doing a notebook full of our life events, all right? What we did was we analyzed our resentments, is what we did. And we have written down a lot, okay? Now, for those of you that are writing notebooks and writing your whole life story, more power to you. But I hope the context, I hope this process is made clear in whatever it is you're doing, okay? But as far as the book goes, man, I was shown it's a very simple process of making some columns and looking at where my defects came into play. So, so we have begun to comprehend their futility and fatality. We have commenced to see the terrible destructiveness of our resentments, our fears, our sexual relations. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, goodwill to all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. We have listed people, and we are willing to straighten out the past if we can. Okay. So we hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him. Wait a minute. What does this inventory have to do with self-will blocking me off from God? Well, if my character defects is pride, am I prideful towards God? Am I impatient with God? Am I lazy towards God in my spiritual education, in my spiritual practices? There's a lot of these character defects that blocked me from God. And by not having a relationship with God, I was irritable, restless, discontent, and I couldn't have a relationship with other human beings. So if you've already made a decision, our steps 1, 2, and 3, we're making some decisions there. And we have an inventory of our grosser handicaps. We made a good beginning. Okay, so we did an inventory, man. We got rid of some of this big shit, right? Got it off our chest. We're going to find us some relief. This process, this format, we get to do that in steps 10 and 11 every day. And so not only will these grosser handicaps be removed, but some of the ones that are not so obvious, the more we do our inventories, the more we will see. And so we've made a good beginning if we've gotten to this point. Chapter 6, into action. We made our personal inventory. What are we going to do about it? We've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and discover the obstacles in our path. Our obstacles. Obstacles to what? Getting a new relationship with our Creator. That is the whole purpose of this program. It's the whole purpose of this book, is to get a new relationship with our Creator. So we've admitted some certain defects. In a rough way, we know what the trouble is. So these are about to be cast out. And now we got to start taking some action, which we've taken action already. Most of us, we took an action when we actually voiced the third step. We took an action when we sat down with a sponsor. We started making our columns and started going through this inventory, right? So we're going to take some more action, which when completed means that we will have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step. Okay, remember guys, this book was written for those who did not have the benefit of contact with a member of Alcoholics Anonymous that had gone through these steps. They wrote this book hoping that somebody could read this book, go through this process, and find what they had found. Okay? And so they included this 5th step in here. Right? And for those of you that have been through the steps with me, see this part right here, it says, In actual practice, we usually find solitary self-appraisal insufficient. All right. Man, when we sit down with our sponsors face to face or elbow to elbow and we go through this with them, we are not doing solitary self-appraisal. My people know that you did not appraise yourself. I pointed out your character defects in each and every resentment. We looked at those and we saw how our instincts were threatened. We jumped into fear and we got into a character defect. And so by this point, you guys have not done a solitary self-appraisal, but there's a reason why I want to go over this fifth step. It's because if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. They want to avoid this humbling experience. Almost inevitably, they got drunk. They persevere with the rest of the program, and then they wonder why they got drunk again. We think the reason is they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. And it wasn't enough humility, it wasn't enough fearlessness, and it wasn't enough honesty that we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. So man, it tells us how we really don't want to tell people our whole life story. We want to push these memories far inside of ourselves. Or we want to tell ourselves, well, that really doesn't bother me no more. I don't have a resentment. I got over it. Yeah, but you had a resentment at that time, or you had some character defects at that time. It's most important we look at those and see what those character defects are or were. And my inventories and my fifth steps before I really found a good sponsor, it was no problem for me to go to somebody. I could go to a pastor, I could go to a priest, I could go to a sponsor, and I could tell them all my traumas. Yep, I was molested this many times, I was raped this many times, I did this that was silly, I did that was silly, I did this that was absolutely dumb, right? And I could tell all of this to a sponsor. But you know what? I would come out of there not knowing what my character defects were. I would come out of there not knowing what was driving me to steal. Yeah, I stole from Mamal's purse. Okay? That's fine. Confess that. We need to talk about this situation. But we want to know by this point, we should know, why did I steal? I was lazy. I was greedy. I was envious. One of these character defects came into play and I took an action upon that and I stole. That's the stuff that I want to talk about with another human being, is my character defects. That I can see clearly how each and every situation in my life, before the event, during the event, after the event, I can see how my character defects came into play. And that's what I want to talk about with another person. So we don't want to push these memories far inside of ourselves. They got to see the light of day, man. If not, we're under constant fear and tension. Next paragraph tells us that, man, our psychologists and our psychiatrists, they know, man, they've seen us quite often enough. They know we don't tell them the whole truth. And not to put anybody down, but sometimes I would tell the truth. And they didn't know what to tell me. They didn't know how to point out my character defects. They didn't know how to point out that it was my self-will that had caused me these irritable, restless, and discontent feelings, right? They didn't know how to get the other person out of the picture entirely and look at where I was wrong. And so we run into that problem. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we are to live sober. And not just sober, guys, to live long or happily in this world. There's a difference. If we want to be happy in this world, we must disclose ourselves to another human being. Those of us belonging to religious denominations which require confession. Yes, man, go to your priest. Go to your pastor. Even people I sponsor, man, we've done a 4-step. I let them know. I give them a disclaimer. Look, if there's something you're holding back, I can understand why you don't want to tell me, but it has to come out. We have to learn fearlessness and humility before another human being, before we think we can be fearless and humble before a spiritual being. Why can't I just go to the river? God knows my fault. Something for you guys to think about. So somebody can go make their confession with their religious leader. It tells us some of us have no religious connection. We might still do well to talk with someone ordained by one of these religions, or a spiritual teacher, or somebody that has some experience listening to people tell their faults and tell their life story, and continue this journey of getting rid of these things that are blocking us from a relationship with our Creator. And some people don't understand, so we have to be careful, right? Some of these religious people, not all of them understand. I was going to priests for years. Yeah, I stole this, I stole that, I stole this. Not one of them could point out my character defect. That my greed calls me to steal. That my laziness calls me to steal. That my envy calls me to steal. That's what I had to watch out for. Those were the things I needed to get out in the open and recognize. I knew the stealing was wrong, and I didn't have a problem telling you. But I never could understand why I kept doing those things until I went through this process in Alcoholics Anonymous. So perhaps our doctor, our psychologist, would be the person. One of my best 5th steps, man, almost 4 years ago. I got out of treatment. I didn't have a sponsor yet. I immediately did a good inventory. I remembered all this, everything I was taught from the 90s. I went through this book. I did it like we go through it. And I chose my IOP counselor. I didn't have a sponsor at the time, so I chose her. And that was one of the best 5th steps I ever did. Of course, she had 30 some odd years, close to 40 in sobriety. And this was not her first 5th step. So it worked out really good. Okay, now we can only postpone this while we're looking for the right person. Okay, this is not to be postponed. The quicker we find somebody, the quicker we get it all out, the quicker we're going to have our freedom. So if we haven't told everybody, if we haven't told your sponsor, if we haven't told somebody, everything, the deep crannies, right? We pocket our pride and we go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Now, these twists of characters, that's what we're looking for, man. When I talk about my sexual relations with somebody, with my sponsor, be it a spiritual advisor or anybody, they don't want to hear all the fine details of my sexual experiences. That's not needed. That's not what we're looking for. That's not what we're after. What we're after is the twist of character. My character defects. How did that come into play? That's what we're looking for. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing. Remember that, guys. It is so important. There is absolutely nothing too embarrassing. There is absolutely nothing too immoral that we have done that is allowed to be withheld. It's not. And what I realized with this complete honesty coming out of one of the best 5th steps I did, I was able to get some of these promises here. Okay, not at first, man. When I first came out of there, looking the world in the eye, the only thing I felt about that was I felt human. She said the most beautiful things I ever heard my whole life. She said, Lonnie, she said, welcome to the human race. And that let me know that my faults, my character, all the trauma I caused, all the trauma that was done to me. I am no better. I am no different than anybody else. No better, no less. I am part of the human condition. I am part of the human race, and we all have character defects. So that gave me slightly a little bit of release. Okay. But I was feeling kind of, man, I was yucky. I was kind of depressed. I was kind of sad. I was kind of in a brain fog. There was this weird feeling going on, and it wasn't happy. That's for damn sure. And what I kind of realized is, we scratch open these wounds that were infected, these things we thought we had hidden deep down inside and we didn't want to tell anybody, and we start bringing that stuff to the surface and like scratching a wound on our leg, right? All this pus and this ooze comes out and it stinks and it's nasty and it hurts, right? When we clean it. But man, over some time, once this stuff gets exposed, with a little bit of time, man, it was like a couple days later, I could look the world in the eye. I could be alone at peace and ease. I could be alone with comfort and peace. I didn't need the bottle anymore. Fears fell from us. We began to feel the nearness of our Creator. Wow. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. To feel the nearness of our Creator. It's not a belief. Did not tell me that I came into a better understanding of God. Did not tell me that my beliefs changed. A belief is a thought. I can believe anything I want to, right? It tells me now I begin to have a spiritual experience. Experience comes by action. We take action. My experience, my real life experience today in the now, I begin to have this nearness. I begin to have this closeness, this new relationship with my Creator. And it's an actual experience. It's not just a thought. It's not just a belief. It's an experience. And so the feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. I really didn't get that till the 7th step. We feel we're on the broad highway walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. And like I said, with all of this kind of messed up feelings I had going on, because I had just exposed my life in all honesty. Every deep cranny of the past I exposed, and I just felt that I had done the right thing. That was as close to the feeling I could get of walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. I felt I was actually taking action to get closer to God. And I just knew I had done a right thing. So great, guys. If you're withholding something, guys, there may be a lot of reasons you don't want to tell your sponsor. There may be some reasons you want to be careful of who you tell these things to. All right. I'm not going to get into those, but we have to tell somebody. Big Book is adamant about that. So if you've been through the steps with me, we were face to face, we were video to video, or we were elbow to elbow, and we went through this inventory together. If there's something we did not talk about, we have to get it out. All right, guys. Next session, we'll get into our 6th step. Take it easy. Thank you.